Trump seeks recusal of the judge in the Central Park 5 defamation case. We talked about this, brought it up on Indisputable because, well, Trump decided to do something Trumpian. Let's put up the picture full mass. Attorneys representing Trump are seeking to get rid of the judge currently presiding over the defamation case brought against him by the Central Park 5. Now, we talked about how this happened. This suit comes from comments made about them during his presidential debate. We call it an unforced error. He decided to do it. This was the debate with Vice President Kamala Harris earlier this year. So Trump on Thursday evening filed a motion in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania requesting the, quote, immediate recusal of Senior U.S. District Judge Michael M. Baylson due to his, quote, personal relationship with Shanin Specter. Shanin Specter is the lead attorney representing Antron Brown, Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, Korey Wise, and Dr. Yusef Salaam, Councilmember Salaam. The basis of the recusal was a November 13th letter Specter penned to Trump's attorney describing his relationship with the attorney and his family. Specifically, Mr. Specter stated that he has personally represented both the Honorable Michael M. Baylson and his wife, and also the motion recusal states, Mr. Specter stated that he has known and enjoyed a friendship with the judge since he was a child, and that the judge and his wife have been guests in Mr. Specter's home on various occasions. Due to the longstanding personal and professional relationship between the plaintiff's attorney and the judge, Trump argued that any reasonable person would have to, quote, question the court's impartiality in this matter. Now, let me remind you of why this defamation suit is even a thing. So during the September 10th debate, Harris said that throughout his life and career, Trump has, quote, attempted to use race to divide the American people. One of the examples she provided was the full-page ad he placed in the New York Times and elsewhere in 1989, calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. That is called a statement of fact. In response to Harris, Trump said, quote, they come up with things like what she said going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5. They admitted, they said they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they barely hurt a person, killed a person, ultimately, he said. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. He doesn't have a grip of the facts, obviously, of what took place. These words, the complaint said, demonstrably false. Multiple people who worked for President-elect Donald Trump's first administration are making plans to flee the country for fear that he might target them once he retakes power in January. The Washington Post reports that a retired U.S. Army officer who clashed with Trump officials, a member of Trump's first administration who has publicly denounced him, and a former United States intelligence official are all making plans to flee to foreign nations ahead of Trump's second inauguration. This is real. This is actually happening. So these high-ranking officials in the intelligence community and in the U.S. military are now fleeing. And typically, they're not just fleeing for themselves, they're fleeing for their families. They're trying to provide protection, a barrier between the lawlessness they believe will inevitably happen and today. And so they're getting room between themselves and the administration. All spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid undermining their own preparations. Writes the Post, quote, the planning, they acknowledged, responds to a hypothetical worst case scenario in which a second Trump presidency ushers in systematic suppression of free speech and the criminalization of dissent. These officials' anxieties have only increased, the Post reports. Trump announced he was picking former Representative Matt Gaetz, we talked about this yesterday, to serve as his attorney general, and former Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who still, I guess, claims to be a Democrat, to serve as the director of national freaking intelligence. A retired Army officer who has been applying for Italian citizenship told the Post of the Trump appointments, quote, "I feel like I've stepped through the looking glass." Mark Zaid, a national security lawyer who has represented government whistleblowers, tells the Post that he's been counseling clients about the options for fleeing the country once Trump returns to office. Well, we're seeing the shredding of democracy right before us. And I've said this before on this show. How does democracy come to a halt? With a thunderous applause. That's how. You have individuals literally cheering on this madness. Elon Musk, who has been, well, an unwelcome house guest according to Trump's friends, he has a global context with his companies. So he's benefiting by the relationship with a president he has purchased. He's going to milk that for all it's worth. The individuals who have attempted to serve this nation, probably be honest, they're the ones who are now making preparations to flee the United States of America. It is real. It is go time. All right. Thoughts?
Donald Trump's words have consequences, and we see that both with the Central Park 5 defamation case, and we see it with people fleeing. With the Central Park 5 defamation case, he got up there on the debate stage and told millions and millions of people that they were guilty of killing someone. No one died in the Central Park case. They never pled guilty. They had coerced confessions, which they later recanted, and they all pled not guilty. So he's just straight up lying, and he has to pay consequences for those lies. On the people fleeing, it's very real and it's very scary. If you go and look at Liz Cheney's comment section, it's disgusting. They're telling her she's going to jail. They're telling her that she's going to be hit with a firing squad. And Donald Trump has continually said that he will use the military against civilians. So people like Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, all of his supposed enemies in the government, he is going to seek retribution for those people. So it's not surprising that people are making plans to leave and go out and secure safety for themselves and for their families.
Yeah, and interesting. We no longer have a co-equal branch in the Senate for confirmation. They have basically said they're going to rubber stamp everything he wants to lay out and get approved. So you don't have that anymore. You literally don't have a non-biased court. Supreme Court is hopelessly compromised by their own madness. And you may have some remedy in the federal court, but even with that, you now have the amazing weight of the AG's office being controlled potentially by a man who should be in federal prison himself. And that is what we have in America.